NASCAR didn't ban this car because it was dangerous. They banned it because nothing could beat it, and the people who were supposed to sell it destroyed it with power tools. By the end of this investigation, you'll know why the car was slower than the model it replaced below 100 miles per hour, why dealers were taking angle grinders to cars worth $500,000 today, and the single engineering decision that made NASCAR officials realize they had permanently lost control of their own sport. Below 100 miles per hour, a standard Plymouth Roadrunner was faster in a straight line than the Superbird. The nose cone and rear wing added significant aerodynamic downforce, but downforce that only becomes meaningful above highway speed. Plymouth had built a car that was objectively worse than the model it replaced, unless you were doing 150 miles per hour on a super speedway. And they built nearly 2,000 of them, forced every dealer in their network to take delivery, and then watched most of them sit on the lot for months. The Superbird wasn't built for you. It wasn't built for the market. It was built for one man, and one man alone. To understand why Plymouth built this car, you need to understand the scale of what Richard Petty meant to the brand. In 1967, Petty won 27 of 48 NASCAR races, 27 in a single season, a record that has never been approached, let alone broken, in the 6 decades since. He was not just Plymouth's driver, he was their entire marketing department. Every time the number 43 crossed the finish line, 3,400 Plymouth dealers across America benefited. Then Chrysler made a catastrophic mistake. While Dodge was developing the aerodynamic 1969 Charger Daytona, a winged, shark-nosed machine designed specifically for super speedway dominance, Plymouth did nothing. Petty watched the Charger Daytona being developed, recognized immediately what it would do on the high banks, and went to his Plymouth contacts asking what their answer was going to be. The answer was nothing. So Petty did the unthinkable. He walked away from Plymouth, the manufacturer he had raced for his entire career, and signed with Ford. The greatest driver in the history of the sport had just publicly declared that his own manufacturer wasn't worth racing for. Plymouth's response was the Superbird, but building it came with a condition that would ultimately doom the car commercially. NASCAR's homologation rules for 1970 had just been dramatically tightened. Previously, manufacturers needed to build just 500 road-going versions of any race car, but for 1970, NASCAR raised that requirement to 1 street car for every 2 dealerships in the manufacturer's network. For Plymouth, that meant building a minimum of 1,920 Superbirds, all of them to be delivered to dealers and sold to the general public before January 1st, 1970, NASCAR's homologation deadline. All Superbirds were built between mid-October and mid-December 1969 at the Chrysler Lynch Road Assembly Plant in Detroit, with finish work completed at a separate Clairpoint pre-production location where the special nose cone, rear wing, and vinyl roof were installed. The entire production run was completed in roughly 8 weeks. The wing alone stood 23 inches above the trunk lid, taller than the roofline of the car itself. For decades, an urban myth persisted that the wing was that high, so the trunk lid could open freely. The actual reason, confirmed by the original engineers, was purely aerodynamic. The wing needed to sit in clean air above the roofline turbulence to generate effective downforce. Function, not convenience. Here is where the story turns genuinely strange. The Superbird was, by every measurable metric, a disaster in the showroom. The radical nose cone extended 19 inches beyond the standard front bumper. The rear wing dominated the car's visual profile to the point that period road tests described it as looking more like a missile than an automobile. Plymouth had built nearly 2,000 of them and distributed them across their dealer network. But customers kept walking past them to buy standard Roadrunners, which were cheaper, more practical, and objectively faster in the speed ranges most people actually drove. The cars sat, months passed. Some sat on dealer lots into 1971, 1972, and beyond. And then some dealers made a decision that, from the vantage point of 2026, is almost physically painful to contemplate. They took angle grinders and power saws to the nose cones and rear wings, removing the very components that made the car unique, and sold the resulting vehicles as heavily discounted Roadrunners to clear lot space. Today, a 426 Hemi Superbird in original condition can clear $450,000 at auction. The Hemi-powered examples, only 135 were ever built, have sold for over $2 million. An unknown number of those 1,935 original cars were partially dismantled by the people responsible for selling them, their most distinctive and now most valuable features cut away and presumably scrapped. Whatever the showroom failure cost Plymouth commercially, the Superbird delivered on the track in a way that justified every dollar of its development. In March 1970 at Talladega Superspeedway, a race specification Plymouth Superbird became the first American production-based car to officially break 200 miles per hour on a closed course. The car's drag coefficient of just 0.28, a number that only a handful of purpose-built supercars can match even today, made it aerodynamically slippery in a way that 1970 NASCAR simply had no answer for. Only 135 Superbirds ever left the factory with the 426 Hemi engine, the same unit that powered the car's record-breaking Talladega run. Chrysler officially rated it at 425 horsepower. If that number sounds familiar, it should. We covered the same underrating tactic in the L88 Corvette and 442 W30 investigations. By 1970, deliberately underreporting horsepower to keep insurance premiums manageable had become standard practice across the entire American performance car industry. The Hemi's real output, confirmed by independent dyno testing of the era, was meaningfully higher than the sticker number suggested. The 135 Hemi Superbirds are the holy grail of the marques today. They are extraordinarily difficult to authenticate. The combination of dealer modifications, incomplete factory records, and 6 decades of subsequent ownership means that fraudulent Hemi conversions exist. A legitimate, documented, numbers-matching 426 Hemi Superbird is one of the most valuable American muscle cars that can be purchased at any price. By the end of the 1970 season, NASCAR officials had seen enough. The problem wasn't safety exactly, though speeds approaching and exceeding 200 miles per hour were testing the limits of tire technology in ways that concerned everyone. The deeper problem was competitive integrity. The aerodynamic advantage enjoyed by the winged Mopar cars had become so overwhelming that other manufacturers simply could not keep pace. The sport was becoming a procession rather than a race. For 1971, NASCAR implemented a new engine displacement limit of 305 cubic inches for any car with aerodynamic bodywork modifications. The Superbird ran a 426. The new rule didn't outright ban the car, it simply made it uncompetitive. Running a 305 cubic inch engine in a car designed around a 426 destroyed the power-to-weight ratio that made the aero package work. Plymouth pulled the Superbird immediately. 1 year of production, 1 season of racing dominance, and a regulatory response so targeted that it was unmistakably aimed at a single car. We opened with a question. Why did NASCAR change its rulebook because of one car? Now you have the full answer. The Superbird didn't just win races, it exposed a flaw in the entire concept of stock car racing, that a car built primarily for aerodynamic performance at speeds above 150 miles per hour had no business being called a stock car. It forced NASCAR to admit that the gap between what manufacturers could build for the track and what they were required to sell on the street had become a fiction. The wing is still the tallest rear spoiler ever fitted to an American production car. The 200 miles per hour Talladega record still stands as a landmark. And somewhere out there, in a garage or a field or a barn, there are Superbirds that survive the dealer angle grinders. Their nose cones cut away, their wings removed, that nobody has yet identified as what they really are. If you followed the L88 Corvette and 442 W30 case files on this channel, you already know the pattern. Detroit built cars that broke their own rules, hid the real numbers, and then watched regulators shut them down. The Superbird is the most dramatic version of that story ever told. If this investigation opened a door for you, subscribe and turn on notifications. The next case file is already in progress, and it involves a car that Ford built for NASA, hid inside a Mustang, and couldn't even assemble on a regular production line. Drop a comment below. If you found a destroyed Superbird, nose cone cut, wing gone, would you restore it or leave it as the dealers left it? I want to know.